At least 19 people have been injured in a Russian rocket attack on Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv. The city's governor said the attack sparked a fire in one of the city's central streets, damaging both civilian infrastructure and cars. Well, let's bring in Sean, who joins me now. Good to see you. It's been another busy night of missile and drone strikes. Talk us through the latest.
Yeah, good morning, Jane. As you say, a busy night. President Zelensky said there had been 150 attacks across Ukraine, including directed drones, bombs, missiles across 10 of the regions of Ukraine. Some of them, Zaporizhzhia is one of the areas where dozens of Shahed 136 drones, you know, those old Iranian drones have been coming across. In Kyiv, there were reports of several civilian casualties as buildings were damaged. In Mykolaiv, a bit further over to the west, energy infrastructure and the industrial base for Ukraine. All of that generally is around the defence industrial base. It's Russia trying to stop Ukraine building its own weapons and the like. And the major strike seems to be on the city centre of Kharkiv, centre of the map we've got here, where it looks like an S-400 missile from Russia. Won't mean much to a lot of the audience, but traditionally it's a surface-to-air missile system, but it's been adapted by the Russians and it's quite deadly. 19 injured, we understand so far, because that strike happened about 08:30 this morning.
So that's what's happening from Russia coming into Ukraine. What about in the other direction? What are we seeing there? There's
lots in the other direction as well. We read regular reporting. But I think for me, the big thing that's hit is that this war is actually migrating to two distinct regions at the moment. In the Donbass area, which we've been reporting, obviously just to the red area down to the south and right there, grinding war of attrition. We were reporting some time ago about Pokrovsk being the next target. Russia hasn't actually made its way there, but it's losing a huge amount of casualties. Winter is settling in, natural foliage is disappearing away. The whole battlefield becomes a lot more exposed, and it becomes a battle for survival, not only fighting. But away from that, this new battle for the Kursk region is where a lot of eyes are focused at the moment. We're zooming in here. You'll recall that back in August, the Ukrainians moved in, managed to seize a significant chunk of territory, first time that Russia's been invaded since World War II. And at the time, largely, Russia just put a ring of steel around it and went, Ukraine, you're trying to divert us away from the Donbass. We're not going to play your game. We're just going to let you stay there, and we're going to focus on the Donbass. However, now it appears that Russia has stepped up the pace now. You can see the brighter yellow area. That's the area that Ukraine still hold. They've lost about 40% of the territory. Why are they doing that? Well, it appears that Russia's decided that with 20th of January, new American administration in, the potential for some form of negotiation. President Putin will not want to have any Russian territory in Ukrainian hands when it comes to that. So they're determined to push them out. Of course, the other risk, although Ukraine, in all honesty, was probably just trying to divert resources away, the strategic risk is it plays to Putin's narrative that this is an existential threat to Russia. I think what's interesting about the whole thing is that although we'll focus on the front line of fighting, it does explain why the Russians are attacking Kharkiv, all of the logistics supplies and support for Ukraine in there. Politically, President Zelensky will be wanting to retain a foothold there. Militarily, what price is he prepared to pay for that? Whatever happens, normally every winter we've seen a bit of a reduction in fighting. I suspect, despite the desperately cold weather, we're going to see no let-up in the fighting until early next year.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously we've got that one date, in January that they're looking towards what happens in America. But as you say, our experience over the last two winters has been that it slows down, and that as the ground freezes, they just can't move tanks. They can't dig trenches further.
No, but I think what's been fascinating is that you have to look at the casualty rates to get an impression of what's the Russian priority. You remember the battles last year when they were describing the casualty rates for the Russians at being about 800 people a day, one of the most bloody battles since the Second World War. Well, the Russians have been taking 1,500 casualties a day for the month of October, and all of that indicates they're just pushing really, really hard. Why are they doing that? Well, it has to be because they're trying to achieve their objectives before some date, and it does appear now that they're fighting through the most difficult time to actually do fighting on the front line. It's boggy before the ground all freezes. Even when it freezes, you might be able to get tanks across it, but of course you've got no cover for infantry. All of that appears to be they've got some form of deadline. Why is that? Almost certainly it just prepares that when Trump comes in, if he does what he said he did, which I'm going to solve this in 24 hours, Nobody's quite sure how he'll do that, but President Putin's always said he's open to negotiation. The challenge from a military guy is that, yes, you may be prepared to negotiate, but what are you going to give up? And is that going to reward President Putin? I think he's pushing really hard to cover all eventualities.
OK, Sean Bell, military analyst, good to talk to you. Thanks very much.